Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I hope you're well today. I'm going to do something a little unusual today. I'm going to be taking some new, well maybe not so new, but things that I don't usually use for a little practice today, and I thought I would take you with me on the journey. Um, Years and years ago, when I was an art student, I went to the Art Students League in New York on 57th Street between Broadway and 7th Avenue. And I started there in 1977, and I studied with an instructor called Robert Beverly Hale, who is very well known. And I started with an academic course of studies doing life drawing, and then gradually over the years, I went there for a long time. I made my way to a master class taught by Frank Mason, who was my mentor and my instructor for many years. And you can look him up, frankmason.org, and you will see some wonderful pictures there and learn a little bit more about him. But he was wonderful. And so it's been, at least 20, 25, maybe 30 years since I've taken a class at the Art Students League, and I'm actually kind of excited because I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to take a quick workshop there in a couple of weeks. And so I've started assembling some various items to get ready for that class. And some of these things, some of these colors I haven't used before, or I haven't used very much. And so I thought we would do a quick practice today, take a look at them and see what they can do. I'm also going to be using a rough paper. Typically when you see me do my little studies, I'll use a hot press, but today I'm going to be using a cold press paper. And I may even try some different brushes. So let me put the camera down and I'll show you what our subject is going to be today, because it caught my eye on the kitchen counter this morning and I thought, well, that would be fun to paint, and that's the sort of thing that anybody can have access to. So let me get this squared away. There we go. Here's the subject. So I've got some ginger here, and as you can see, it's starting to sprout, which is a lot of fun. And this is just a piece of printer paper I have folded over so I can have a white background. And I'm just checking my settings to see if we're live. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to, well, let's see where you can see it as well. I'll put it right over here. Okay, and as I've mentioned many times in the past before, I have a lot of different watercolor boxes and kits. I love these things, and so I've got all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Many of them are the tin boxes like you see here, with the black enamel on the outside and white on the inside. I also have some nice big plastic what's it called? John Pike. I think it's John Pike palette that I have had since 1977. So you do the math on that. I'm not sure what that is, but they last forever. So and I'm not saying you should go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff like you see me demonstrating here today. But the reason I pulled this one out is because I wanted to have a full selection of colors that were suggested by the instructor. And so many of these colors are ones that you see me typically use. As you know, I often use just 3 colors, so I'll use a yellow, a red, and a blue. In this case, I've got 2 of each of those colors. So I've got one warm yellow and a cool yellow, a warm red and a cool red, a warm blue and a cool blue. And then I also have some earth colors, but there's some additional colors here that I haven't used before. For instance, this is indigo blue, and I'm interested to see what that will do. Let me get on the screen here. And this is sepia, this is black. I don't often use black, so I'm curious to see how the instructor uses black. And this is phthalo blue, which is a very vibrant, very strong dye color that I rarely use, although I found that when I go to the ocean to paint, it can be a very handy color to have. Cobalt violet. Here you see sap green. I never say never, but I virtually never use a pre-mixed green. I always mix my own greens because I want them to harmonize with one another, and I want to have control over all of the various hues, the warmth, and the temperature of those greens. So that's what I'm going to be playing with today. I'm going to start off by doing some color swatches just to take a look at what they look like on their own, and also how they look in combination with one another. And I want to show you, so these are a couple of different papers that I've used recently. So you saw me do this one last week, and this is the hot press paper. So if I bend it a little bit, you may be able to see that it has a slight tooth to it, very slight, but it's mostly smooth. And I'm not sure if the camera will pick all that up or not. Then I also use this kind of paper. So this is a slightly rougher paper. This is called cold press, and maybe you can pick out a little more of the texture on there. I think you can. I think this is the same. So these are just some quick things that I did to make cards with. And then here I have, you can see I've got a whole bunch of these things. This is what I typically will ask my students to do in class, is to begin with a color wheel to understand the color mixtures, a value strip, which is this, so going from light to dark to show the various steps in value that you can accomplish with any given color, and then just a little sphere to check out how it looks in terms of form. So we're going to do something like that today. And so this is the paper that I've pulled out. Let me move this over a little bit. This is just super cheap paper that I can just scribble on and do some quick mixes. And then this is the better paper, and as you can see, it has a watermark on it. I think you can see. So this is Arche paper. This is made in France. It's very nice paper. It is a cold press, and it is 140-pound paper. So it's a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker than what I would typically use. I like to use 90-pound because it works so well with cards, and also for making sketchbooks and journals. And I love making journals. So the 90-pound paper actually folds a little easier and is easier to stitch. But for this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and use this heavier paper, and I recommend using a bone folder when you're folding your paper, because what you don't want is to get any of the natural oils from your hands onto the paper, because that's going to repel the water and leave a mark. So I'm just going to tease that apart. Now, when you tear your paper, the way I just demonstrated here, what you're doing is you're imitating this deckled edge. So this is the natural edge of the paper that's formed on the screen when the paper is made. And in the case of the Arche paper, you don't see the screen print or texture is not as apparent as on other paper. So both sides are perfectly usable. Now you can paint right over the watermark, and you know, particularly if you're working with a subject where you've got a lot of texture in the foreground or whatever. But because I'm doing a close-up of this ginger, I'm going to use this larger sheet for my artwork, and I'm just going to put this to the side just to do some strokes, so to see how the paper responds to the brushes. Okay, and then finally I have an assortment of implements over here. So I've got my pipette, okay, and this is just something that I like to use to wet my paints with. So you can grab a little bit of water and just add that to your colors like so to get them activated. I had mentioned also last time, I believe, about my subscription paint box, and in that starter kit is included a pipette, so they're very handy to have, and that will be in the set. I have an assortment of brushes. So I've got some sable rounds in 3 different sizes, a small, medium, and a large, and these run from I think this is a 6 and an 8. I've got a little flat brush here, and my number 2 pencil. The reason I have the flat brush out is because when you're moistening your paints, if you're doing a lot of scrubbing, you may not want to use your highest quality sable, because you don't need to add additional wear and tear to your brushes, your best brushes, just to get your palette cleaned up. This is a slightly different red than what you would typically see me use. It's a little bit duller. I usually use a stronger, brighter red because I do so many botanical paintings, but this is a great red for landscapes. And then, I'm not sure what this is. This looks like a, this is something I'd left over on my palette. It looks like Payne's Gray to me. Here I just have some of that black because it got a little bit messy as I was getting my paint sorted. And then over here is the, I believe, the indigo blue. So I'm just curious to play with that, because this is a color that I do not typically use. So there's the indigo. and it's very beautiful. It's a deep, rich blue. And then this is sepia, which is a beautiful warm brown, which is great for doing value studies. And I think that's all for now. So let's get, I'm going to start with a scrap of paper. Like I said, this is super cheap paper. This is something that I got in the craft store, and I think it's really the sort of quality you would give to kids. But I'm just going to take some of my indigo and give that a swatch. So there you see it. Now indigo is a very historic pigment. You know, all the pigments have very interesting stories, but indigo is the color that you see many army uniforms dyed with because it's so easily available and it is such an excellent dye color. It's also the color that we use to dye our blue jeans with. So if you've got a pair of dungarees, and if you grew up in America, I'm sure you do. This is the color of denim jeans that you see so often. And here I've got my sepia. So let me grab a little bit more. So here's an example of a quick value study using the sepia. And I could get much darker than that. So if I gave that a chance to dry, I could go back in and get even darker at the low end of the scale. All right, so I want to point out the difference in these yellows. So this is a cool yellow. This is cadmium lemon. Okay, so there it is. And then over here is cadmium yellow pale, which is a warmer yellow. These are very strong colors, very permanent. They are wonderful to work with, and you can see there's a big difference in the quality of the yellows here. Now, if I take a blue, I'm going to grab some of this French ultramarine. So here's a nice strong blue. Let's see how the green mixtures look when we mix those yellows with that blue. Okay, that's the lemon. You can make it a little bit darker on this end. There we go. Okay, so that's a nice green. Now let's see what the cadmium yellow pale does with the blue. I'm going to go ahead and mix it right on the page here. Right, so it's a little less vibrant, a little more muted of a green, which is great during the summer. But if you want those brilliant spring greens, I think you want to go a little more in that direction. So let me see if I can make that a little stronger so you can see it better. I have 2 containers of water off to the side, one for rinsing my brush and one for clean water to mix with. Alright, so there is a nice range of greens, and I think you can see there's a big difference between the 2 different yellows that I used to mix these 2 different greens. So depending on what it is that you're hoping to depict, you may want to keep that in mind. And this is why it's so important to just play with your colors and do these color mixes. Not only does it give you a chance to see what the colors can do, but it also gives you a chance to practice a little bit, which is always a good thing. All right, what else do we have here? I don't have my typical red. Oops, there's something else in there. I don't know what that is. Okay, I just mixed something else into the red that I don't remember what's on my palette. So let's clean that up and start again. Alrighty, so here is, this is alizarin crimson. Okay, and alizarin crimson is a wonderful color. It mixes easily, makes brilliant violets with ultramarine, and is a great color to work with. So let's just grab a little ultramarine. So there is a beautiful violet mixture. Okay, and nice rich dark. And if I take my red and just sort of blend that, you can see I get a beautiful red violet. And then on this other end, add my blue. And I can make a beautiful blue violet. Now this is an extremely useful color, particularly when painting landscapes, which is what I've spent a great deal of my time doing. And the other red that I typically use, a permanent rose, is a much brighter, stronger dye color, which gives you an even brighter violet, which is particularly nice for doing botanicals, which is something else that I love to do. So I think I want to play a little more with this. Let's see what this indigo does with yellow and red. So I'm going to grab some of this indigo, and you can see how strong it is. It's just this wonderful, deep, rich black, blue-black. It sort of has undertones of like a, almost looks like a phthalo blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of the, let's try the cadmium yellow pale. And that's giving me a wonderful green. Now that's a great green. That's the kind of green that can span both spring and summer. All right, so that's not bad. Now let's see how the violet tones look. Here we go. All right, so I think you can see that the indigo really gives you some very beautiful mixtures. So there it is. There's a typical primary swatch, yellow, red, and blue, but this time with indigo, alizarin crimson, and cadmium yellow light. So beautiful, beautiful tonalities. These are some of the colors that I'm going to be using in the workshop that I'm going to be in, so I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with those. All right, let's get to our ginger. I think that's enough color mixing for now. I think you get the idea. So you don't have to use your best paper for this. As I said, this is super cheap paper. You can also use the backs of your old paintings and just use them up. Ones that didn't make the grade and you don't think you're going to be sharing them with anybody, flip them over and do these practice pieces. All right, so let me get this out of the way. And see, I had a little board here. Let's see if this is big enough for my paper. That's fine. All right, so I'm going to begin with a very rough sketch just to make sure that I get my subject on the paper. And I'm not going to spend a long time on this today. I just want to play with these colors a little bit and to share with you how I would go about doing such a thing. So I want to put this so that you can see it as well. So there we go. I think you can see that all right there. And as I mentioned, this is cold press paper, so it has a very different surface than the much smoother hot press paper. And our ginger has 3 main branches, or fingers, I'm not sure what they call them in the world of ginger. It does kind of resemble a hand, though. At least from this angle. And the pencil sketching serves just to help me get it situated on the page. I'm going to continue sketching with my brush as I paint. So I'm not being too fussy here with the arrangement. And I'm hoping to capture some of this texture with the texture of the ginger with this paper. So I'm going to get my spritzer. So I've got my little spritzer here. I'm going to give the paper a light spritz. And I'm going to use this sepia. Just going to drop that in. So I have a nice soft edge to my shadow. And I'm going to use my yellow ochre, and I'll grab some of this violet to tone that down a little, make it a little more neutral, and just kind of put a very light wash of ochre. While it's still wet, I'm going to get a little bit stronger. And since I'm looking at this cobalt violet, I'm going to see what that does for me. All right, so that would be my first wash of color. I'm going to now increase my darks. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my ochre, and this time I'm going to add a little bit of my red to it to make it a little bit deeper. And then for my darkest tones, I'm going to keep going with the ochre, but I'm going to try my violet mixture. So if you notice, I'm always using red, yellow, and blue. Now, depending on the subject and my palette, they may be different tones of red, yellow, and blue. But you always want to have a balance of those three colors. That's not to say that you can't make one color more prominent than the others. They don't have to be equal, but to be able to increase the vibration of the colors that you're painting with, you want to have all three primary colors represented in some way. So, that's the base work done. And now I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to use my middle-sized brush and start to do a little more drawing. So what's particularly nice about the, I'm just checking to see if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and put them in the comments. Kelly says she loves the indigo. I do too, Kelly. It's a beautiful mixing color. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. What's nice about the round brushes is that they come to such a beautiful point, which really helps you to do your fine detail work and to do your sketching. So I'm going to just clean up what's on my palette basically. And start to put some marks that are a little more prominent on the ginger. The other thing that's very, that's just so beautiful about the ginger, it has these wonderful kind of ridges, almost the way you would see those rings on a piece of bamboo. And so they add wonderful texture. Now my paper is very wet, so I'm just getting very soft edges. So I'm going to take advantage of that for now while the paper's drying a little bit, and get some of these beautiful soft transitions. I want a darker dark, so I'm going to go back into my violet mixture here. Tone that down a little bit with the ochre. And so my darkest accents are going to be in here, down here, a little bit here, over on the shadow side. And I haven't even gotten to the sprouts yet. I can start to indicate those things. So for my sprouts, I'm going to go back to that indigo cadmium yellow mixture and play with that a little bit. It's a little too strong for there. You know, one of the things that I see brand new watercolor painters do when they come to one of my introduction classes is that they use too much paint on the brush that they think it's like poster paint, and it's not. You're basically working with tinted water. And so if you want to spend a session working on a specimen and just build up your form slowly, going from light to dark, use lots of water. Don't be afraid to get your paper nice and wet and use plenty of water, because that's going to give you all of the beautiful nuances that you get from watercolor. All right, I'm going into my indigo, mixing it with my yellow. That's a little too blue, so I'm going to go back to my yellow. There's a nice kind of a yellow-green, so I'll start with that. So I'm going to sketch my sprout. And I'm just using the shape of my brush to imitate the shape of the sprout. Now this one's going to be a little too wet over here, but we'll get it started. And I'm going to go back to my dark violet. I'm starting to get a little more of a descriptive line now. Still a little wet down here. But each time you make a stroke on your page, you're also testing the degree of wetness or dryness of your paper. So that's going to help you to know what sort of strokes you're going to be able to create. So as the paper is still plenty wet, as it is right now, I'm able to get these very soft gradated edges, and that's what I'm looking for. And oh, I see another sprout here I didn't get, so let's go back to my mixture. So here's like a little nub coming. It's just emerging from the root. I've always wanted to try growing ginger, and I've never done it. Maybe this is the perfect specimen to put in a pot and see what it'll do. And if I look very closely, I can see that there's another sprout down here, and one, actually two, three. Oh my goodness, the more I look, the more I see. So here's one, and then there's one sort of tucked in here. All right. Now I can help these shapes with a, there's no paint on the brush, I'm just moving some of the pigment that's on the surface of the paper here. And I think this is a good time to begin getting a little more of the ridges. So let's see how that does. Well, it's still kind of wet, but you take it another step further along. Now, if any of you would like to work along with me and share your pictures, you can do that in our special private Facebook group, and I will put a link to that in the description below in the comments after I do the video today. And if you would like to join us, you're welcome to do that. And in that group, you'll be able to post your pictures, and so we can all learn from one another and share our ideas. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage so that you can find out about the development of the subscription box for watercolor, also for people that want to paint with ink, and for the pop-up shop information that's coming right up in September. So please make sure that you sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage. I will include that link also in the comments below so that you can do that. And that way you'll be able to follow along with the development of the starter kit and learn how you can be one of the first ones on the waiting list to be able to be eligible for the special deluxe edition. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about that, so stay tuned. So slowly, slowly, the form begins to emerge. I'm not in a hurry. And I think what I want to do here is get this a little darker into my edge. Another very fun exercise would be to set a timer, much like you would have in a life drawing class where you would have 1-minute poses, 5-minute poses, 10-minute poses. Do that with your still life and your specimens, and just paint some really quick, fun studies. All right, well, I need to connect these two, and what I have here is a sort of a branching off, and I've left this area white because there's a strong highlight there from the light hitting the form. But they are connected, so let's get that established. And a little bit of texture. as I build up my darker areas, I'm staying away from the light areas that I've already established my light and my middle light tones. So I'm just kind of moving from my lights into my shadows. Ooh, too much paint there. I will say that playing with a new palette and new colors is a lot of fun. And you know, you may be wondering, why am I taking a watercolor workshop when I've been teaching watercolor for almost 40 years? And the answer is because I already know what I know. I want to learn something new. I don't want to just get stuck doing the same old things that that I've become accustomed to. So also there's an energy that you know, I'm looking forward to at the Art Students League in class, and also being back in New York after not having been there for a while. You know, it's just it's invigorating, it's inspiring and motivating. It's a lot of fun, and I know I'm going to see old friends. I know I will probably see some people that I've known for nearly 40 years, and so I'm really looking forward to that. And so for all of those reasons, and the camaraderie, you know, there's going to be a lot of wonderful, very serious artists there, and that is it's an atmosphere that I love, that I spent a lot of time with, and you know, living here where I live is an absolute blessing, and I'm so fortunate to be here. But I'm by myself most of the time, and I don't often get to see other painters that have a similar background to mine, and so I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to pretty much leave it at that. I'm going to add a couple of quick dark drawing lines. So I'm going to go back to my new friend Indigo and mix that with my red. And get a kind of a cool blue violet. And I'm just going to put a couple of strokes here and there, just to sort of give the a little punctuation to my study here. Still plenty wet. I'm going to let this dry, and then I will come back and I will put some finishing touches on it, and I will show you that in the thumbnail. So you'll be able to see. But that's pretty much how I would go about doing a little test drive with a new palette and new colors. In this case, also new paper. Well, maybe not new paper, but just paper I don't typically use. And the last thing I want to point out is that because the paper is such a nice quality of watercolor paper, the moisture has now seeped into the core of the paper. It's not just sitting on the surface. And what that means is that I have a lot more control over where I want the color to go. And so I'm able to kind of push the paint around a little bit, have a little more, I'm able to manipulate it a little more than if it were just the dry brush. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. I will be checking that out. I'm going to take a quick look. Oh, there are some comments here. Let's see what's happening. So, Beverly's talking about combining the watercolor with stamping. Absolutely, especially, you know, these just these quick exercises that you're not planning on exhibiting or hanging or whatever, but you know, instead of just letting them get dusty in a drawer somewhere, go ahead and use them up and send them out, make a beautiful card with them. That's what I do. Teresa says the hardest thing is getting the initial light wash tint right. Well, Teresa, I would say don't worry about it. Just keep going. So just, splash it down there. Use plenty of water. Go start light. I used to have an instructor who used to say, go lightly longer, and I always hear that voice in my head, go lightly longer. And just keep going. Don't get hung up on one thing, because oftentimes what will happen is as the painting progresses, the issues, the earlier issues will rectify themselves, or the answer will become clear. And if you need to get away from your picture, put the brush down, walk away, go make yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever, walk the dog, and then and come back and look at it with a fresh eye. Okay, so don't, we get hung up with this minutia that really doesn't matter. So long as you've got a big idea and you understand the movement of light and the effect that you're trying to achieve, just keep that in your mind's eye, and you'll get there. Let's see. She says it looks like a hillside in Greece. Well, there you go. There's the, it's like the Rorschach, how do you say that? Rorschach test, where you just put a blotch down on a paper and you see what it means to all the different people, and it's entirely different. So, yeah, I mean, isn't that wonderful? I mean, that's the abstract quality. So, when I start a picture, I try to keep it as abstract for as long as possible, and just add the finishing touches towards the end. And you're absolutely right. You can see a landscape in a piece of ginger, and isn't that exciting? Isn't that fun? So let your mind wander. Keep playing with your materials. Show me what you do. The group is called, I think it's called Watercolor and Paper Crafting Projects. I just changed the title, so I don't even remember. I'm not even that familiar with the title. But I will post that in the comments below. So if you're not in the group, you'll be able to join us. And please comment so I can see your name and I know who you are. And so when your name comes up, I can let you right in. Don't forget to sign up for notes. Very important. Lots of wonderful things coming right up and great opportunities. Get busy. Get your brushes out. Get your paints out. Have fun. And I will see you next time. Stay well. Stay happy. Stay creative. And I'll see you very soon.